evening, everyone. It is February 18th, 2020, and we are starting our executive session at 6:30 p.m. Opening statement.
Let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner: by the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on January 8th, 2020, by the emailing of a copy of said notice to the Asbury Park Press, Tri-Town News, and Star Ledger for information and publication on January 8th, 2020, by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on January 8th, 2020. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127, NJAC 17:27. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with emergency exits for your safety. Upon exiting the meeting room, they are to your left and to the right. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Television. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
He'll be late.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Here.
Mayor Berger?
Present. Is there any reason to go into executive session this evening?
Yes, there is, Mayor. Good evening. This evening, we have to discuss contract negotiations and real estate acquisitions related to New Beginnings Church, United Town Musical Academy, and other matters related to attorney-client privilege.
Thank you.
Second time was better.
The executive statement, session resolution.
Whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell is authorized pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 to exclude the public from that portion of this meeting for purposes of discussing specific matters as permitted by NJSA 10:4-12, and whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell intends to discuss certain matters which are deemed confidential pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 in executive session. Whereas at this time, the governing body of the Township of Howell cannot determine the time when the discussion to be held in executive session will be made public, but will disclose the minutes of the executive session when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Township of Howell that this meeting shall be adjourned to an executive session and the public will be excluded in order that the governing body of the Township of Howell may discuss the items previously listed, and upon reconvening this public meeting, the presiding officer will announce, if possible, the time when and the circumstances under which the discussion conducted in executive session will be disclosed to the public.
May I have a motion to go into executive?
I'll make a motion to go into executive.
A second?
I'm sorry. Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is February 18th, 2020, and it is approximately 7:36 p.m. The executive session minutes from tonight's meeting can be disclosed to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then a moment of silence for our fallen heroes. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, may I have a motion to accept the minutes from February 4, 2020?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of February 4th, 2020.
I'll second.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
No. But I read the minutes, and I thought that there were things in the minutes that I was not yet comfortable with. I felt I wanted to look at it again, so no. Do we have any reports from our officials on the side?
Nothing from me other than what we covered in executive session.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a couple quick items to point out. As you know, there are multiple construction projects going on around the town. Starting this Thursday, the intersection of Locust Avenue and Maxim Southern Road will be fully closed to all traffic, so the water company can install the water main in the middle of the intersection. They're going to prep today and tomorrow, get to that point, and then Thursday will be a full closure, so there'll be no access whatsoever. Everyone's going to have to go around. There will be at least 4 police officers directing traffic on top of the new detour signs that are going up tomorrow. That will be a one-day closure, and then the contractor is scheduled to move north on Maxim Southern. So by Friday, the intersection of Locust and Maxim Southern will be reopened. However, Maxim Southern will be closed from Locust to Amanda.
May I, Mayor? I have a question, Jim. Do we talk to the Board of Ed? I say that
Daily.
personally, daily, because I live on Locust.
I was actually downstairs today in the Board of Ed.
Oh, okay, so
Our
they.
police officers went to the
bus-
transportation department. We have a daily email that goes out
Mm-hmm.
to let them know where all the detours are going to be, so we're coordinating that.
My kid said there was a problem today with the bus and letting them anywhere near where I live, so, I mean, the last couple of days have been pretty good, but
Yeah.
yes, today, for some reason, there was an issue, so I wasn't sure how the communication worked with
Yeah,
transportation.
there's a daily work
Good.
email.
Okay, thank you.
That's the first item. The second item, we're really looking to screw up traffic this week. Starting Thursday, the intersection of Georgia Tavern Road and Windler/Frederick Avenue is going to be fully closed for probably 3 weeks. Once again, that's going to be a pretty heavy lift. The school has been notified. We are working with them to add some police officers to the bus leaving time, because they're going to have to go around to make sure they get out. We're going to have detours posted all over the place. That should be about 3 weeks until we can get past that intersection, and then that intersection will reopen again, and then Georgia Tavern will be shut beyond that intersection heading towards the reservoir. So those 2 items, we will post that tomorrow on the website, but just a heads up that they're coming. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
I also have a couple of things. I wanted to mention that the New Jersey Blood Service, I think we're doing a grand opening for them on 2/20/20 at 12 p.m. And Lytle, their grand opening is 2/26/20 at 7:40 a.m. So if anybody's interested in going, please do so. You also know that in Howell Commons, we have a couple of new stores coming into that area as well, so that's another good
Nice.
addition. Give me a minute. Sorry. I had a couple questions. So, at the last meeting, we talked about shade tree dollars being spent on taking trees down. So, I had a couple of questions because you mentioned that you were talking to Brian about it. With all due respect, there's a chairperson for the Shade Tree Commission, and they are my commission. So I'm not sure why you'd be working with Brian without including any of the people on the Shade Tree.
Well, I'm happy to respond. The shade tree, I had actually been speaking with Brian and Paul Novello years prior to your changing the structure of the committee. And
When the committee was correctly formed.
as it may be. However, when I had talked to Paul Novello, and he had instructed me, or had informed me that all of the monies, come through Brian. And at that time, which was probably now 3 years ago, I had said maybe we need a 3 or a 5-year plan. So when this all began, it was at the time when my husband was sitting on Shade Tree. So when I was talking to him then, and even now, I'm still asking him, if he's formulated any type of a plan. So although he's not here tonight, he had said to me the last time, I thought he said at the last meeting that he was working on it. And I do believe that someone from the committee had come up and asked to be a part of it, which of course they would be. But this has to be a plan, of course, where trees have to be identified. So it takes months and months, really,
Well, I'm
to
sure
put this.
Brian is not identifying the trees, right? We use our tree specialist.
Of course,
which
but of course, as
was
a
what-
manager, he dictates how this all goes. So that's why I had spoken to him 3 years ago. So in an effort to facilitate an action of safe trees and trimming and that type of thing, I was still speaking to him about it. If,
Well, and moving forward, I'd appreciate either myself or Crystal Diaz is the chair. I would appreciate that either she or I are in that communication.
well, then I'll just ask the chairperson to share the or take the responsibility and help Mr. Geegan put a plan together to make the trees safer in Howell.
Absolutely. That would be fabulous. Thank you. I wanted to mention also that we got some great grants here at the schools. So we were able to have a water filling station, a greenhouse and outside classroom, and a sensory hallway. So those are they're really great projects. Also, I know we mentioned, but we are going to have the farmer's market. I'll have ask Joan in a couple of minutes if you can come up and give a little update on that. Also, Jim, Winston Park. We would like it to have like a date of August 25th
For what?
I'm April, forgive me. Well, Arbor Day is the 24th and Earth Day is the 22nd, so we wanted to, since we were doing trees, we wanted to do it around that same time.
So there is a lot of moving parts to that, which I explained to Ms. Osborne probably a week ago now. So we're working with the county. The county has an area of riparian mitigation that is required due to a couple of bridge replacement projects in the town. They have identified that parcel as one that would be a good fit for mitigation, meaning they would go there and plant trees and shrubs for us at no cost to the town. So the coordination effort is to make sure that the county has a piece of land to plant, our grant area has a piece of land to plant, and we're all coordinated and not planting on top of each other. We also have some drainage issues in the park. The Public Works Department was able to televise that drainage line earlier, actually it was Friday. Unfortunately, they did run into some problems out there, which we suspected, so there might be some drainage repairs that are needed in that field. But we're going to identify that, stake it off, and then we'll have an area for the planting to be done. As far as coordinating with the county, I've been doing that. I received a landscape plan on last Friday afternoon, and I have to basically go through it and talk with them about working in our grant application for that right area, and that's basically it. So yes, we're definitely moving forward. It's just a lot of balls in the air right now.
Okay. But if we can keep it around that time, I would appreciate it. There was one other thing. I believe at the last meeting, there was discussion. Deputy Mayor, you and Tina Smilek were going to speak with Jeff Mayfield. Did that meeting happen?
Yes, it did.
Would you give us an update on that?
Certainly. I met with former manager Jeffrey Mayfield at Dunkin' Donuts on Thursday. It was 12 o'clock. I had asked him to go over the transfer station as it happened, the letter, what was said, what he said to people on the telephone, what I said to him, and he was kind enough to share the information with Tina Smilek and myself at that meeting. That's what happened.
Sure.
Tina Smilek, 33 Charles Street, Howell, New Jersey, and I would like to thank you very much for setting that up, and it was very informative, and I appreciated it a lot, and I hope you learned as much as I learned, because I think there's a lot you didn't know also that went on for this whole transfer station. My understanding is that you were agreeing to a phone conversation, not the letter. You don't recall receiving the letter or seeing the letter, although I did have the paperwork that said you got the letter because I had the email, correct? but you don't
Yes,
remember
all
seeing it.
5 council members received a copy of the letter.
So when he called and he asked, you for approval, you weren't really sure you were approving the letter. You thought you were just approving the changes to the road requirements, if it should go through, that you wanted to make sure there was a light there was road work done to make sure the infrastructure would keep up with everything in
The
there.
phone call that I had with Mr. Mayfield preceded him writing a letter.
No, I showed you the
was
email I
March,
had.
yeah.
March 3rd is when he sent you the letter, and then March 6th is when you had the phone conversation with him. I showed you the emails?
My understanding is that it was the other way around, but,
I have the emails. If you want me to send them to me, I can send them to you
no,
again.
I saw them all that day.
So that was my understanding, that was just how it went, that you weren't really recollecting the letter as much as you were the work
con-
that was going to be done.
Yeah, once again, the conversation that I had with Manager Mayfield was pretty clear. This project was going to happen with or without the consent of the governing body, and it was the thought of the manager, and I believe, Mr. Herman, that if in fact we had to do this, if this project was going to be thrust upon us, that we should at least try to get road improvements, that type of thing, to make it somewhat safer for the residents of Howell.
And my only thought on it was that I agreed with that should be, we should always protect Howell, but in the letter, it stated that Howell Township approved it, and you said, yes, that was wrong, that probably shouldn't have been worded that way.
And I believe Mr. Mayfield also agreed with that. That he
Yes,
felt
it
could
shouldn't have been that word that way.
Yeah.
And my biggest problem is that I think we need to read this stuff and make sure that we are on top of it, reading and knowing exactly what's going out before we give approval on things.
You're right, and I don't know what the other 4 members thought when they read the letter, but no one had brought issue to it.
There was a problem with
But-
nobody responding and everything else. There was a lot of problems in the situation, and I thought it was eye-opening. Did you learn stuff that you didn't know beforehand?
Yeah, this transfer station's been going on quite some time, even before I sat as a council person. So I was a little surprised that there was so little information with the council, and it had been
And the
in
people
the
that were
works.
involved from the beginning was very interesting also.
It was definitely a different stroke.
So,
I was glad Mr. Mayfield agreed to come.
Yes.
And at least verify that what I said to you was truthful and all of the information that I knew to be true.
but I hope
So-
we're moving forward with what you know now about the people involved from the beginning, that your opposition to this, and you really put out there your opposition to this and continue to oppose this. And did the new letter go out yet?
I think it's
For-
being signed, it was signed, I believe, tonight by everyone, or
We
anyone who
have the
hasn't signed it.
We have the signed letter. Everybody
signed it.
signed it. It's going
You
out.
signed?
I signed it last week.
Okay, so.
It's
that's-
prepared, and it's been
that's nice to
prepared,
see you
yeah.
all on the same thing, but I hope, it sounds a little scary to me what Mayfield told us about the people that were involved, and I would hope you would bring that to the attention to the others on council, so everybody was brought up to date with everything that was said at that meeting. Because it's a little disturbing, to say the least.
Well, I'll be honest with you, my main focus on this was to at least have you understand my position, and I think Mr. Mayfield was forthright when he said that I was truly against it from the get-go, irrespective of what has been put out in public. So I'm glad at least, at the very least, and everyone, I hope everyone now knows, because you were at the meeting,
And he
that
also
no
said
one
that
was in favor.
Nobody answered it when Nicastro answered it. Nicastro said, if nobody answers, just vote yes and send the letter.
I don't know
Right.
what I didn't read what he wrote, because when,
That's what Mayfield said to us.
I'll be honest, I don't recall him saying it exactly like that, but I do know that.
It's okay.
there
I
was one-
recorded it, so I have all of
One person
it.
did email, and my conversation was only by telephone with Mr. Mayfield.
There's a lot, and I hope that you take it to the proper authorities, or you do the proper thing with the information you receive.
Well, I will say that I think the best thing that's come out of this is that everybody now understands is that the council at the time and this council,
And I will stand behind you and I say, I really don't believe you did anything malicious, and I don't think you have a maliciousness in you, But I think there's more to this, and I think it needs to be corrected, because this problem is going to continue to happen unless we correct the problems that got us there to begin with. It was also stated that Nicastro is involved in the administration of this office, is talking to everybody almost every day here. And, what is the purpose of that? Who runs this town?
So let me bring it full circle now. Is anybody up on the dais in favor of the waste transfer station?
No.
Everyone's
No.
opposed to it.
Correct.
Everybody signed the letter opposing it.
Yes.
Opposed to it?
That letter's going out the door. We're opposed to it. We're going to fight it.
Okay, I just want the stuff handled that caused it to happen to be handled.
We're going to fight it.
Okay. Well, there was nobody on the, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Councilman.
First, I had a question for Jim, but I'm going to go back to the Shade Tree Commission because this always comes up. NJSA 40-61-1 powers the Shade Tree Commission. The Shade Tree Commission shall have the power to exercise full and exclusive control over regulation, planning, and care of shade and ornamental trees and shrubbery now located or which may hereafter be planted on any public highway, park, or park. But so to go back to this, you're meeting with the township manager. You can't argue the monies. You go. It's the Shade Tree Commission, the mayor's commission. It says exercise the full and exclusive control over the regulation, planting, and care of shade and ornamental trees. So we got to get this straight. This is a state statute. We're going against a state statute. What's going on? So can we look into that?
I will look into it. The budgetary issues may be separate from the authority issues in terms of their ability to regulate.
Thank you. Now to my question. Jim, can we have a quick update on Freewood Acres? I'm getting a lot of requests with the roads being open, closed, what's dug up, what's not paved, going to be paved.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up right there. So the entire west side is now complete. The east side, the main connection was made about 2 weeks ago at the intersection of Georgia Tavern and Roosevelt. That was actually about a week ago now. That actually opens up the majority of the east side to being connected. Those lines still need to be tested, as-builted, and approved by the DEP. We are working through that right now. What that means is, there definitely are people out there that have asked us and have come to us on an emergency basis where their septic has failed, they need sewer immediately, and there's actually been about a half a dozen connections already because they just couldn't wait any longer. Same with water. We've had multiple people with wells that have gone bad in the short time that the New Jersey American has finished the water main on their sections. They've already connected to water, certain residents. So right now, we're planning on sending out the must connect notice probably within the next 2 months. That is not a hard deadline. We will finalize that deadline hopefully shortly. We are talking about having a meeting over at potentially Landapine School, which would just be with the professionals, hopefully. Myself, Justin Yost, my deputy, the water company, the gas company, MRSA, to actually go point by point and talk with the residents to tell them exactly how to get things done. In the letters that we send out, there will be directions on exactly how to apply, what to apply for, who has to go where. We're also finalizing an affordable housing manual, which will offer funding for people that truly do need it. They will have to qualify. The qualification is very similar to our affordable housing qualification process. They will have limitations on combined salary based on number of residents in the house, the whole nine. And if they do qualify, they will be offered up to $10,000 in affordable housing money to make the connections to the sewer and water system. If the resident stays in that house for a period of 10 years, that money will be fully forgiven at no cost to them whatsoever. It'll also be handled by the Affordable Housing Agency, CGP&H. They're our agent. They will actually go through the bidding process. They will obtain the contractors. They will vet them. They will group projects together, so the goal is to get 4 or 5 on a block together and have them all bid at one time as one job, therefore that we would get a better price, okay? So all that's potentially going to happen more than likely in March to April. And like I said, we'll be following up with the Must Connect letter. At the end, right now, we're going through and evaluating all of the drainage systems. The drainage systems are very poor. None of those drainage systems are allowed to be paid for utilizing the sanitary sewer funding that we're getting from the state. So we are currently evaluating those to determine if anything else needs to be replaced or additionally replaced based on construction. And then once that is replaced, we'll come back. The contractor has to pave all of the roads. So, you know, yes, they do look like a little bit of a war zone right now. It's been a long, tough process. The water company's been in and out of there. The sewer contractor's been in and out of there. Also, we want to make sure that people understand this is their chance to connect to the gas system, because once we pave these roads, we're hopefully not opening them again. So there are about 150 of the 600 homes that are still not connected to the natural gas service system. Natural gas, we've been working with them to send out flyers directly to those residents to try to get them to connect, because we're just afraid that the minute we pave the road, somebody's furnace is going to fail and they're going to want to change over to natural gas, and we're going to tell them no. So there's a whole lot going on right now. You know, it's going to be the next few months till they get the rest of Georgia Tavern complete. And then once they're complete with that, everything in Freewood Acres proper, we'll call it, will be done. Sewer and water done. And then the roads, we're letting them settle, and we'll come back with the drainage in the roads.
Is there information on the website, like updates and stuff?
There
like
is,
that?
under my, like my quarterly update that I
Right.
do, there's a big one page on Freewood Acres. I haven't updated it recently because there wasn't a whole lot of work going on recently. We can do that again, because now all the water projects have just started. So I can potentially do another update. We don't have anything else really going on, but that'll be enough to write an update for.
All right. One last thing, guys. The last meeting we had in February 4th, we all passed a resolution opposing the S2. And I believe it was you, Councilwoman Richmond, you asked us to reach out to who we know. And on February 6th, I reached out to Senator Gopal. And he wrote a letter to the governor, Governor Murphy, Senate President Sweeney, and Speaker Coughlin. And he addressed our concern in a letter. And I just want to read this one part, just because it means a lot to us, because we're in the Freehold Regional. Strengthen regional school districts. While districts like Freehold Regional have seen reduced enrollment across the past several years, we need to make sure these districts do not lose key programs. As state leaders, we have made it a priority to promote school district regionalization for the good of New Jersey's taxpayers. We must keep that focus and ensure that our school funding apparatus works to the advantage of the efficiently consolidated districts rather than against them. So,
Thank you, John. That's
So-
that's awesome.
all right,
Thank you for that.
you're welcome.
Evelyn, did you want to?
Yes. As a member of the Green Team, I feel that I can speak to this issue. I had asked at the last meeting about the energy-saving program that the K-8 district has done. Mr. Herman, and I know that Mr. Geegan said that he was meeting with Mr. Sanasak. Have they had a meeting since the last meeting, our last council meeting that you're aware of?
I'm pretty sure they've had multiple meetings. However, I was not privy to anything about the ESIP program.
Possibly when he gets back, maybe he could just shoot us a paragraph email, just giving us an idea of where we may be heading, hopefully.
Sure, I think it's just that we didn't get a chance to catch up before he left for vacation,
Yeah,
so
I know,
that's
I
all.
realize that. That's great. And the second thing, I think it was the last meeting, Crystal Diaz had asked me, or had mentioned about the trees that are in the reservoir, and asked if they could be cleaned up, basically. And fallen trees, as they rot and whatnot, yeah, it is unsightly. I did speak to Mr. Phobes, and he advised me, and specifically like within the reservoir, they always remove trees from pathways or anything dangerous where there would be people either riding their bikes, walking, horses, that type of thing. But the trees that actually fall within the forested areas, they do not clean up. They let Mother Nature just run its course, and they rot down and that type of thing. So trees are not cleaned up. maybe we would like them to be in our own yard kind of thing. So I told her I would check into it, and the next day I did speak with him. So those trees will remain down. Thank you.
I have two quick things. I just want to thank all the people out there who made the farmers market possible. I'm seeing like at least 3 or 4 right now. Thank you so much. It's an awesome idea. I'm looking forward to it. My mom wants to be a part of this group. She asked me to ask you guys if it's okay if you include her. Hi, Mom. But no, it's a great initiative. It's something that we should have done a long time ago. So the second thing, Jim, there are trees along Friendship Road that have ribbons around them or they're cut. Is that JCP&L?
Correct.
Okay, can you explain a little bit what they're doing?
Their hazardous tree removal program related to power outages. So they are going down key arteries for them and removing trees. They are also, if you remember, I gave you guys an update a few months ago on Yellowbrook Road and the trees that are not in the township right-of-way. They are asking homeowners for their permission to cut these down because they've identified them as potential hazards that would knock out a big chunk of houses for power. So that's what they're doing. They're doing it all over the place. And Friendship and New Friendship, I believe, were both recently done. I think they're complete, but I drove down there the other day, and that's what it is.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you. There was nobody on the sheet, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
blank.
So then let's go to the consent agenda.
I think you
Want to do the report?
still need to probably still open it.
Okay, so if anybody would like to speak, please come up and sign the sheet so that there is a list. That's the process. It just makes it orderly for everybody.
I thought you were going to sign yourself in. Right? You guys want to do that? We could do that. It'll solve a lot of problems.
You can take me back faster, because I'm the biggest mouth, so.
I didn't. No, she has something going on there. Jim, who's the first name on the list?
First name is Tina Smilek. However, she decided to punt and go last.
Okay, so who's second?
Next would be Joan Osborne.
Joan, please come up.
Dead air time.
Thank you.
So, Joan Osborne, 28 Baronia Street. You had asked me to come up and talk about the farmer's market.
Yes.
We had a big meeting last Tuesday, I think it was, at the library, and we were surprised to have about 10 to 15 people that are interested in being vendors show up. I had attended a meeting in the Monmouth County Ag Building the prior night and handed out flyers, so we got a lot of interest there. I think the council's support and allowing us to have it in the front of this building is going to be great. We are passing a resolution tonight, or an ordinance allowing the lease to go forward, so we're excited about that. I think we have people that want to sell eggs, honey. We have Kaufman Farms wanted to be involved. We have a few vendors who are going to be selling craft products. And, you know, as the applications come in, we'll keep you informed. But we're looking to start on the last weekend in May, May 31st. Tom, tell your mom that we could use a secretary.
Thank you.
So we're happy to have anybody who wants to be involved.
It all goes back to
We have information on the website, so you can look there. We also have a Facebook page now, so look for Howell Farmers Market. on Facebook to get information about it. If you're a vendor or a craftsperson who is interested, we have options for, you can, rent a space for one day, you can rent half a season or a full season, and we're going to have, I think, 18 Sundays between 10 and 2. So there's that. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Winston Park project, and I understand the logistical issues that Jim has, but on our end, for the Environmental Commission, we also have logistical issues of getting the people together. So, as soon as I can feel that we can firmly move forward on the date, I need to get the people organized. I need to create the event, work with the town's marketing person to get the information on the website. And, with all the moving parts that the county has, I'm concerned about being delayed by that. So I don't know how confident, it sounds like a lot has moved forward since we talked, Jim. So do I need to be concerned about the April date? Do you think we'll be able to do it?
I have to call the county and just find out if there's an area that we can set aside that will work for both them and us.
Okay,
So we can use the grant for some of the repairing and mitigation bank work.
okay.
So that's what I have to coordinate now. And like I said, I got the plan Friday afternoon.
Right, because I'm concerned about moving forward. Accepting the grant means we kind of have to do it the way it was laid out. So we're getting 700 trees to put over 2 acres. I don't know that there's a whole lot of other space after that, because you have to put them 10 feet apart. But, so just so we can, really work together to get this, just keep communication open, that would be great.
Yep.
The other,
Who's planting 700 trees?
we have an environmental club at the middle school that wants to show up with 60 kids and plant trees. We have town council, who I'm sure is going to show up and plant a few
Tommy has a
trees.
shovel ready.
Got your overalls? I got my shovel. We're good. We're good.
We have people in the green team, people on Shade Tree Commission.
Okay, I was just-
So
no,
Boy
700 is a
Scouts,
lot
Girl
big number.
Scouts.
Some
It is. It's a
landscapers
lot of
want to
trees.
chip in.
But they're
Yeah.
small
great.
trees. They're small trees. And we have to put tubes around them. So, I think it'd be a great celebration of
Oh,
Arbor Day and
absolutely.
Earth Day. And,
Absolutely.
give the people in Winston Park some ownership of it, because if they help put the trees in, they're going to want to take care of it. They're going to want it to look nice. And I know that they're doing some other improvements in Winston Park with playground equipment, so it's a good project. The question I had is, I had been to a Howell Heritage and Historical Society meeting a couple weeks ago, and we're also doing the ERI on the Environmental Commission. I went there to get photographs, and one of the things that they gave me was this beautiful photograph of Mackenzie House, and I know that they're very anxious to get that place open again, get it back up to snuff. Has the sale gone through yet on that? Or has it been transferred over into their hands?
So we finally signed all the papers. They were sent to the Heritage Society's attorney, I think, over the weekend.
Okay.
The holdup was on the part of their title company. They were requiring certain things that we had to comply with. We did. And so now the papers have been fully signed. I expect a closing
Okay.
in short order.
That's good to know. Okay, thank you. Thank you for everybody who made that happen. I know, Joe, you had a lot to do with it, too, so. The last thing I had was, there was a resolution that I saw tonight on the agenda that I didn't see on the preliminary agenda. It's the one pertaining to Second Amendment rights. And, I looked at it, and it doesn't really sound like it says anything in particular, and I'm wondering why we're doing it. There's a lot of people who are very concerned about gun safety, and, if this is advocating for more people to be walking around with guns, I'm really against it. But I don't really know what, it says it's, that we are in favor of existing laws, and New Jersey is a state that is very, very safe with regard to guns, and we want to keep it that way. So I don't want this to turn into Howell supports everybody running around with guns, and, I don't think most people are going to be reading this, so it just seems like something that it makes you feel good. We could have a resolution in favor of every amendment or every, Bill of Rights right. So I don't know if that's the best use of council's time. We have a lot we need to do, and how.
Thank you.
Bill Kaminsky.
I just don't have the full resolution in front of me. I see that it hasn't been printed out yet, but I wanted to speak.
Excuse me, sir. Before you go on, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Okay, it's William
Sorry.
Kaminsky. William Kaminsky. The address is 164 Herbertsville Road in Howell. Been here for about 20 years, well, over 20 years now. And 5 years ago, I really wouldn't have had any problem with the resolution affirming the township's Second Amendment rights, but it is a constitutional issue. Now Texas allows armed students on college campuses. Protesters armed with assault rifles were allowed in the Kentucky State House. Universal background checks, even removal of guns from mentally disturbed individuals, won't be passed by the federal government. The Second Amendment right is open to a whole range of interpretation. No matter how carefully you word the resolution, we can reasonably expect that it will be misinterpreted by a radical faction of the Second Amendment advocates who do not know or care what New Jersey gun laws represent. The second portion of this, where you're saying that we rely on the township enforcing laws, that goes without saying. I fully expect the Howell Department would enforce New Jersey gun laws to the full extent of the law. I'll personally call up 911 if I encounter an individual who is not obviously working with law enforcement or doesn't display any other need to carry a gun. I'll consider him lethal, a lethal threat. I will not approach the person. I will call up 911 and insist that the Howell Police Department come out there, approach the person, and if the armed individual does not have a New Jersey concealed gun carry permit, I would expect that he'd be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. This is just inviting people from outside our community. I'm a gun owner. A lot of people in Howell are gun owners, but doing something like this is going to hit the internet. The Second Amendment rights people are going to be all over it, and I fear that it's going to impact the citizens of the town. I don't think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
That's what I have to say on it.
Thank you. William Gonzalez?
Good evening.
Hi.
My questions, I have a couple of
Could you
questions.
state your name and
Oh,
address,
okay,
please?
sure. William Gonzalez, 4 Rosewood Drive, Howell.
Thank you.
I've been a resident for 23 years. My concern is they were talking about the trees removals on the power lines and stuff like that. There's nothing being done really much on the Point of Woodside, which is around Burgerville. There's a lot of power lines that trees are really hanging over them as well. I always call up, like in the summertime, because you see a lot of kids that are riding their bikes and the branches are sticking out, and you see, cars fly by there. And I'm just worried about some kids that riding their bikes, they're going to get hit. And I called twice already about that last year. And I just wanted to know if you had mentioned about the tree removal, if that's going to be, will anybody take any action on that area?
I don't think that there's been a plan yet for where any removal is going to occur.
Well, he had mentioned about Yellowbrook Road, that they were removing trees because of the power lines as a safety hazard or a power line issue.
We're not doing that, Jim, right? Isn't the power companies doing it?
Power
Yeah.
companies, but I just wanted to know if there's anybody could direct them to go to that area.
We can't direct them, but we can ask.
Okay, and I think I
Won't hurt.
mentioned I'm sorry.
That won't hurt to ask.
Okay.
We have
Yeah,
a good
I'd appreciate that.
relationship with their local government services person, so we'll just call them and ask them, is there any plan for Burgerville in that area? And
Okay.
if it is, when would you be there?
Okay, and then the other thing too is I think I spoke to you last year about paving the Point of Woods area. School buses pass by, let me rephrase that, fly by, and there's like the gas line where the existing gas lines were. They've kind of like eaten up some of the road, so there's like a ditch in there on wherever there's a gas line going across the road. So the vibration in the houses, you could feel it pretty intense. There's a lot of potholes in that development. I don't think that's been touched over since I've been living there. I mean, like I said, 23 years. But that development, I think, has started 27 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So if somebody could consider maybe paving that area or taking a look at that development. I think I spoke to you last year about it.
Yes, so Rosewood is in my list of roads to pave this year.
Okay.
Not the entire development, just Rosewood. And then it's gonna be a multi-year plan, because we have developments like yours all over the township still that all need to be done. So we're gonna start with the main roads in and out, and then branch off after that.
Okay, it was mainly what they did was they did the Point of Woods a couple of years ago, but they did the by where the townhomes are, and
Correct.
that's what they did. But
Yep.
they never went inside.
Right, we're getting there.
Okay.
That's
I
that's
appreciate
on
it.
this year's list.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
I have
Appreciate it.
one quick question for you. You mentioned power lines in the beginning as far as.
Yes.
You also mentioned kids riding their bikes.
Kids ride their bike by Burgerville.
It's on the south side of or the north side or?
It's on the northern side of Burgerville, where there's like a creek there on that side, if you're familiar. And you'll see like in the summertime it gets pretty bad. It gets pretty bad.
So
and you see kids cars are flying by there, and you'll see kids riding their bike. And a couple of times you see that they avoid the branch, but there's a car coming by, and something's going to happen sooner or later, and I just don't want to see it happen.
So Jim, that wouldn't, the power company would they wouldn't address that because
No,
it's
but
the height.
but there's trees that are. I'm saying that the branches that are low, maybe the township could cut.
That's what I'm getting at.
But yeah, okay.
I'm saying maybe that's a DPW issue as far as the height.
Yeah, anything below the power lines, the power company's not gonna touch, unless they've identified the entire tree to be removed.
Gotcha.
Where they will take it all the way down to the stump.
That would be marked at this point, correct?
Well, I don't know if they're working here, but yes, in the other areas it is.
All right, we'll look
Okay.
into it.
All right, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Novak?
Kathy Novak, 16 Stratton Drive. I was just wondering if there was some way that you could fit it in, when there's new people here in the audience, they don't know the process, that they have to sign a clipboard and sign in. I was just wondering if there was at some point, if you could fit it in, if it's an empty clipboard.
Sure.
We can make it happen.
I guess maybe just next meeting, I'll just make sure to
Yeah,
ask everybody if they've
yeah,
signed.
I think that would be helpful, because I know when I first came, I didn't know. But Mrs.
Sure.
Dixell said, sign the board. So anyway, I just would like clarification on the Howell to Lakewood water transmission. I've been following it for a couple years now, and I've heard a couple different stories about at one time, people couldn't hook up because there was too high pressure, it would blow your faucet off. And then it was another time I heard, well, yeah, people people want to hook up and they can. And then I heard a resident last meeting say he asked if he could hook up, and it was no. So is anyone going to be able to hook up with this project? That's just clarification.
Depends on where you're at, but the general answer still is, it's the water company's line. It is very high pressure. They typically will not allow a small 1-inch water service connected to a 36-inch main. So if they do allow a connection, that's on them. However, they have told me that they're not expecting or looking to allow people to connect to this line.
So that's over the past couple of years, no one has hooked up?
I
You
don't,
know.
I
You
don't get a
know.
permit for
Oh,
any of
okay,
that, so.
okay, all right, I was just wanted some clarification, that's all, thank you.
Joan Farkas?
Hi, I'm Joan Farkas, 926 Adelphia Road. I actually have two things. I initially came here to talk about one thing, and then I just saw that the Second Amendment resolution was on here, and I'm just a little confused because it seems really redundant that unless we intend to leave the United States, we really don't need something saying that we're going to follow an amendment of the Constitution. So that just is very confusing to me, why we would even be wasting our time discussing that. Additionally, I'm actually kind of heartened because I've been hearing people talking about issues with trees in the town, and it sounds like we are actually going to be having the utility company taking down the trees for those that are interfering with utility lines, Department of Public Works taking down trees that are diseased on public property, because I had heard that there was some plan where we might be taking funds from the Shade Tree Commission budget to do that. And that just seems to me not an appropriate use of those funds when there are other ways for those trees to be taken down. And I think this Shade Tree Commission needs to be consulted and be part of any plan in terms of how we're going to actually then replace the trees on public property. It's why they're there. It's why they were created, and I just think it's important that those funds be used correctly. I moved to this town 20 years ago, and one of the reasons was because it's gorgeous, it's rural, there's trees, there's woods. Every time my kids come home from college, we pass another thing, and they're like, oh, Mommy, look at all the trees that are missing. So I just would really like us to not lose the character of the town, and not to mention, obviously, they help with reducing greenhouse gases emissions. The root structure helps with water runoff. So, I just really hope that we're going to do what we can to replace any of the trees that are coming down and not waste our Shade Tree Commission money with removing trees. Thanks.
Thank you. Please.
Joe, as far as I think everyone's getting confused with Shade Tree and DPW. Am I correct saying that when DPW takes down a tree on private property, we actually bill that owner
That's
of
correct.
that property? So there's two different things going on?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, with the public property, if it's private property, it looked like in the statute, the owner ends up having to pay. So, yeah.
Is there anyone else that would like to come up? Tina Smilek?
I saved the comedy hour for last. Tina Smilek. I'm going to start with 33 Charles Street. I'm going to start with just some housekeeping things. Has a date been set for the town address from the manager that I asked for?
No.
Have we even discussed it?
Actually, the mayor and I have discussed, actually, Evelyn sent council an evaluation from Howell Township that we want to take a look at.
Okay, so you're still moving forward in that direction? Are you all on board with, okay, good, as long as that's on there. The road work, are we going to, when is that going to be on the agenda again?
Joe?
So we're looking at the bidding process. We expect to have it on the, probably at the next meeting.
Okay, so this went out to bid, and we're waiting to go over the bid results?
Correct. The bid results, we've looked at them. There was an issue with regard to them, and so we are looking at them again, and we expect to have them on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay, are those results available to the public if they are OPRD?
No,
Okay.
not yet anyway, and once it's awarded,
Once
they
it's
are.
awarded. Yeah, I figured, I just didn't know. Okay, Soldier Memorial Park Building, did we make any headway with that?
I believe we discussed it here, right? We discussed it at this
We
this
were waiting
dais.
to make it official to see if that
Yeah.
grant money was still able to be awarded to us. We're waiting on that answer, I believe. correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're still waiting for grant information. Okay, the 9A-8 authorized the award of New Jersey state contract for the, no, not the right one. The one for cleaning services, janitorial services, 9A4. What would that be for? Is that gonna,
That's for this building here, for the public spaces in this building, for our offices in this building, and for the Board of Ed.
and is this something that you no longer need employees here for? Is something happening with employees? How would that be?
Yes, so there are some personnel changes that are occurring. I don't know that it's appropriate to speak about them here, but yes, there are personnel changes that will take effect for this.
Will anybody be losing their job?
No.
Okay. Okay. Gun ordinance. You all took an oath when you took office? You all took an oath when you took office to uphold the Constitution? So I hope you all uphold the Constitution. Whether you agree with this or not, I am a Second Amendment fan. I do agree with the Second Amendment. I am a gun owner. So I approve of the Second Amendment. I don't think it needed to be as thorough as it was, but whichever it is, however you vote on it, as long as in the beginning of every council meeting, you all voted to uphold the Constitution, I would hope we were all safe, and our Second Amendment is safe, so. All right, now to something that I really upset that I have to bring up here because it's really very childish. As everybody knows, I run the Howell Happenings page, also the group page, and it seems Councilwoman Richmond is not a fan. So I do have a conversation that I'd like to give you all so you're all up to date on what happened. So, and just so you know, I called it the ultimate chicken parmesan saga because this is all over people asking a question, who has the best chicken parm? That's what this is all over.
So let me ask what the issue is. I mean, if it's not township business, if we're talking about private email, Facebook postings, then it's probably not appropriate to bring up in public discussion. You have a forum, it's pretty well read, and so I'll get these
Public
and I'll
comment,
circulate them.
I thought I could bring up anything in public comment.
No, you can't. There's absolutely law to that effect. The township can control the agenda. Typically, the discussion's
have a-
restricted to the items on the agenda, and I can send you the cases. I've done it before. I'll do it right now if you would like.
Yes, I would.
Okay. So I will send them to you, and you'll take a look at them.
Yep, but the mayor does run the meeting, correct?
That is absolutely correct, but I'm the parliamentarian, and I'm telling you that this is not exactly an appropriate topic for public discussion.
It's not appropriate topic for a councilwoman to make insulting remarks on something when she doesn't even know the situation at hand.
If it's
And
on
when I'm
her
insulted
private
by a council
Facebook,
person,
if it's on her private Facebook, it's a private issue. You have a forum that you control that's very well read. You can take it up there.
okay, I'll take it up on my page then. That's fine. I figured I would handle it this way because I didn't want to embarrass anybody, and I thought it could be handled maturely, but I guess it's not going to be handled maturely, so.
What is the action that you propose?
No, you just told me to take it up. I'll take it up on mine.
Is there anyone else that wants to come up? Please.
Hi, I'm Krista Riddle. I'm the Howell Alliance Coordinator for Howell Township. I'm also a resident. I live at 190 Aldrich. So tonight we talked about trees, paving, water, Facebook posts, chicken parm, but we never seem to talk about the overdoses in Howell, and I just find it interesting that citizens never support or rarely support the prevention efforts in Howell to save young lives, which is a serious matter. It's not something we can sit here and laugh about. There were 65 overdoses in 2018, down to 50 in 2019, and we have 6 that I know of already this year. 2 were fatal. So I'm just curious, putting it out to the masses, why there aren't more townspeople supporting our mission and vision to save lives when we talk about everything else. I guess that's really not for you, but it's just for the general public? As a question.
So I guess maybe, unfortunately, not a lot of people come to the meeting, and so they don't get the information unless they watch TV, and if they don't watch it on TV, then how are they getting informed? So
Well-
maybe there's a better way that we could inform people?
Well, they are informed because we're in the local paper all the time. We're in the Howell Times, the Tri-Town. We have Friends of the Alliance Facebook page. Howell Township Facebook page posts our posts. The police department will. We hand out flyers. We have Prevention Press distributed to K to 8 and then 9 to 12 schools in their electronic backpacks. 25,000 people plus are reached with that. So I think sometimes we just choose our topics, what we see and what we don't. And I was just trying to bring it to public attention. I know this will be on TV as well, so hopefully people will watch and get involved with something that's important, saving young lives. We talk about
Absolutely.
everything else at all these meetings, and people complain, and it doesn't seem like anybody steps up to the plate for our youth. So I have here our latest Prevention Press, and I have the Community Health and Wellness Workshop Series flyer that we're doing. So I'm going to put them on the table here, if that's okay? Or,
Absolutely.
Okay, and-
I would really like to connect with you and work with you on this, because this is like in
Yes.
healthcare, and so that's what, it's like my passion, so.
all of you, because you're extremely supportive. You come to my meetings. I have Friends of the Alliance meetings quarterly at Echo Lake at 7 p.m., based in community feedback, that everybody wants a voice, and we're not doing enough to save our children. And I get maybe 2 or 3 council people there and no citizens, unless they're in my alliance. So I'm just saying that I think townspeople could get more involved in things like this. We talk about trees and guns. We already have a Second Amendment. We talk about water hookup, paving, saving kids, that are riding into the road because of branches, and we're never talking about the addiction problem and mental health awareness in Howell to save our kids. So that just amazes me coming to the meeting tonight. I've been to a few other meetings. It's never a topic, so I'm just
Krista,
kind of putting that out to the public.
I can tell you that I will, on my Facebook page, we'll be putting out your think tank dates.
Yes.
It's once a month, right?
It's once a quarter.
Once a quarter,
The first
okay. I was
Monday, yeah.
there with you,
Yes,
was
you
that
were.
January? So I'll put it out there on my Facebook page. I know John runs a page. I know, we're all pretty connected, so.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We'll get it out there and we'll help you out.
Yeah, and this was more for the public. I'm going to be honest. I find you all extremely supportive of my initiatives, the police department, straight across, K-8 schools, the high school, all of the town components, except the public is what's missing at the table when we talk about saving our kids from addiction, suicide, depression. So I'm trying to, people will watch this maybe and rally support and come out and have a voice heard about things that will save lives instead of some things that are just, basic daily passings.
So Krista, we've worked together, and thank you for everything that you do.
Sure.
You work about 60 to 70 hours a week. I know, I see you everywhere. So for the public that comes to like trunk or treat and all the events the police department does, Krista's always there. She's always doing handouts. She's everywhere. Her Facebook page blows up. I know, I see it in my feed all the time. So I think it's really important that we spend a lot of time, like Krista said, on nonsense, right? So maybe if we all take the time to share her post, like her page, go to the township page, you can always find Krista, that face. You see it everywhere. You see her papers in all the local businesses. They support you. I know that they do. The chamber is amazing. The police department, like you said, the council. So if we can just bridge that gap with the public and start sharing it on social media, voice, and all the public events that you show up at, I think your work is amazing. So thank you.
Say you didn't see it because it is everywhere.
Oh, sure.
So I just want to say that I think as a community, we need to be more involved in saving young lives, and maybe we can get the number down from 50 this year if we all take part and have a discussion about that among all the other concerns that we voiced tonight. So
Absolutely.
All right,
Thank
well,
you.
here, these are up here.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you. And thank you for the shout out. I think it's important.
Joe, I'm just asking, I don't know, but could we do a special meeting just maybe to bring people in, parents and seniors to come in and have Krista give a bit of an education to them? Maybe we could reach more mass?
Of course. We could look into that. I mean, we could schedule one. We could get it out to the senior center. We could get it out to the Board of Education, the schools, the parents, and all of that. So, of course.
Because I think it's important for seniors. They're dealing with this, with things that they've never dealt with before,
Sure.
with children who are, who are taking drugs or who are ODing, they not know what to do.
You know,
Actually
Krista,
I go to the senior
oh,
center quite
I was going to say, I know
Yeah.
you
have
work
like
at
a
Mill.
medicine drop coming up in April, so
Right.
I'm there about every 3 months doing a medicine drop, and I distribute literature on like K2 Spice and all of the
Right.
trends, so they're aware. Exactly right, bridging the gap. But I was just asked in the audience, we are on How Happenings. All of the Alliance events are right on How Happenings. They're on How Cares About School. So there's no reason if people are seeing chicken parm on How Happenings, they're not seeing our addiction issues and what we're doing as solutions in How, and there's no reason to not get involved.
So, Krista, I have to say, as I have John and I are the only ones that have kids in the Howell School District, and I know from my kids being there, the work that you do in the schools and how you work with Ms. Massari, and you have presentations and assemblies, and my kids come home with pencils and everything. So the fact that the public is unaware or uninvolved, as a parent of two teenagers, and John has birthday today, not John, his daughter, we're very well aware of what goes on. So for the public to be so naive in that, it's just completely mind-blowing.
So
I don't mean that as
think it's
disrespect.
naive. No, I don't think it's
Okay.
naive. I think people, this is now going to turn into a whole different discussion.
You know,
But I'm
That's
just,
fine.
in my mind, so being in healthcare, people kind of avoid
True.
mental health issues because they can't tangibly see them, so they don't exist. So, that's where it
fair.
happens.
That's
And
fair.
that's how it starts.
We're going to be coming to
Unfortunately.
Howell Township and to you to pass a resolution for stigma-free zone, which will help with the mental health awareness. And we've also trained 70 people in Howell through the Alliance for Mental Health First Aid, so they recognize the warning signs. That's
Right.
including our school
It's important.
SROs and guidance counselors and SACs. So, okay, well, I don't want to take up too much time.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Krista. No,
That was a
that's-
very good, we worry about first world problems. This is a real problem.
Absolutely.
That's my point.
Yeah,
The
I get it.
amendment, okay, and
totally get
I'm not
you.
being critical, but, lives are lost every day in our own community. So,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Krista.
you. Good job. Okay. Please.
Sorry, I forgot to sign up.
Come on down.
Mike Bernstein, 3 Colleen Court. I kind of want to address what just happened with Tina. This board here, you guys been doing a lot better with being transparent and letting us know what's going on. But prior to you people all sitting here, the only way that we found out what was going on in this town was because of Tina and because of that page. That was the only way. We all found out about the dump, not because of you, transfer station, excuse me, not because of you, but because of her and her efforts. She's the one that let us all know. And I kind of have a little bit of a problem with the fact that because that's been the one source of information for years, prior till now, that you're not gonna let her talk. I understand you're the parliamentarian, but I just have a question. I don't know if this is possible. You're the mayor, I love you. Can you vote on whether or not this is gonna get discussed tonight? Do you have the power to do that? Can you take a vote and see if this, and if her concern is gonna be addressed? Because I'm real curious to see if you're allowed to do that. Because she's here at every meeting. And we all depend on what she says. The woman that was just here, I hope she goes to Howell Happenings. And more people will know about what's going on because of that page.
It's on there. It is on.
Well, and I'm sorry, but I think she deserves to be heard, and I think the problem that she's going through deserves to be discussed. It's happening here.
Well,
I'm asking if you can have a vote as to whether or not you can discuss it.
I have to ask Joe that question because I don't have that answer.
So there's no vote necessary. You're the chair of the meeting. If you want her to speak about it, she can. I mean, my recommendation is everybody's described it as the chicken parm incident. It hardly seems to raise the level of pressing township business. I mean, I understand that Ms. Smilek may have some strong feelings about it and that there may be a difference of opinions about the propriety of Facebook posting and that. But it truly seems like it's a private issue, and it's, it doesn't really, like I said, rise to the level of township business. And as the parliamentarian, I would recommend that we not address it simply because every time somebody posts something, now it's going to be brought up at a meeting, and there you go. We're not going to get anything done. So,
It's okay. I haven't put it on my page. I didn't want to take it that far because it really doesn't deserve to be that far, but it needed to be
Mr. Clark, can I address what you just said?
addressed. If you want me to address it on a page, 20,000 people instead of right here, to make it simple.
it was posted all weekend, from what I understand, so it's already out there, so.
Tina,
Can I just address what you said, Mr. Clark, with all due respect? May I?
You run it.
okay,
Okay, I'd like to
So-
just answer him, if I could, for
Go
2
ahead.
seconds, okay? I can appreciate everything that you said. This is the first time since Howell Happenings has been here that something is being brought up. But this is also the first time when somebody is being accused of something that is just not true. This is something accusational. And the issue is Howell is a public forum. I mean, Howell Happenings is a public forum. Anybody can go on there and look, okay? It's not as private as you're making it out to be. And this is where I disagree with you.
Howell Happenings is not a public forum. It's a publicly available forum,
Yes.
but it's not legally a public forum in the same way that we would understand it in the law.
Well, I think I find it very, very disheartening that you're allowing splitting hairs in the letter of the law to affect somebody's reputation. But I thank you for listening.
I can't even, so I don't even have Facebook. I don't go on Facebook. I don't even,
You're better off.
okay. I would like to, I mean, I'm not going to
I
do
have
that.
the packages. I will distribute them. I will distribute them.
I have every meeting, so if you want to bring it up next meeting, but I just didn't want to put this on a page with 20,000. This hasn't been on, I didn't want to put it on 20,000.
I'm good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
For your time.
But that's okay. I understood where they wanted to go now, so I was.
I have to say, I mean, is it? Could I do that? I would like to take a
Going
5-minute
to
break.
take a 5-minute recess. Everybody can take a look and
Yes.
we'll adjourn.
If we can start this meeting again, it is 8:56. Okay, so before we move any further, I read this document. Tina, thank you for sharing the document. At this point, I believe that I would like council to stay out of this, but in speaking with you and speaking with council, you are free to post anything that you want to post on your page. I know, and I appreciate that. But I think that we would like not to vote on this. Thank you. Consent agenda.
All right. Make a motion to move 9A1 through 9A8, excluding 9A9. I want a separate vote on that, and also move motions 9B1 through 9B3.
I'll second them.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes.
Need a motion on 9A9.
9,
I excluded that.
which one?
9A9.
9A9.
I'll make a motion, Mayor, to approve 9A9.
I'll second that.
May I?
Please.
Just in terms of information, has the police chief of Howell Township endorsed this resolution?
I believe that Brian sent it to him, and he did.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I know he read it. I'm not sure that he endorsed it, but I know
Didn't
he
speak
read
to
it.
me about it.
I sent him a copy of this exact resolution. I didn't hear back from him, but I think in Brian speaking to him, he's in favor of a resolution regarding Second Amendment rights.
Roll call?
We already have a Second Amendment. We're Howell Township Council. We're council. We're not Congress. We should be worried about adding resolutions for roads or parks. When we add things like this, we're using our taxpayers' dollars, we're asking Joe to spend hours, sometimes days, for something that's symbolic. And I'm not here, I can't change that. I'm not a congressman. No, none of us are. We're not in the Senate. I just, every time we do this, we're wasting some dollars, and I'm just going to abstain. I'm not going to vote on this stuff anymore. I'm not abstain from it.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yeah, so when this resolution came to me, I have a personal experience, and this is something that,
Excuse me, point of order. There's a motion on the floor. Shouldn't we be just taking a vote? We already had a,
He's speaking for his vote,
I-
so you should not be cutting him off.
I can speak after. That's fine. I can speak
No,
after.
you can
That's fine.
continue, Councilman.
I'll speak after. I vote yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
So I'll speak. I do believe in the Second Amendment. My son has his rifles and he loves them. But I do agree with you, Councilman, that this is not something that needs to be passed by us. So even though I do believe in the Second Amendment and I have no issues with it, I will abstain with this, to this as well.
On to the next one.
I'm sorry, did we include the motions in the consent? You did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I missed that. Thank you.
Ordinance 10-1.
Yep. Ordinance 0-20-3. 10.1. Introduced and passed on first reading on 2/4/20 and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 2/7/20 is submitted and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted in the bulletin board, on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies were available to the general public upon request. I would like to open this portion of the meeting for discussion on this topic.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'll also read the title of the ordinance.
Thank you.
An ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Howell, Monmouth County, authorizing the leasing of a portion of the property located at 4567 Route 9 North and at 251 Preventorium Road in the Township of Howell pursuant to NJSA 40:A:12-13. That's it.
Any discussion? No? I'll close this portion. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that ordinance number 0-20-3 be finally passed and adopted, that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 2/21/20 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Best news of the night, yes.
Ms. Richmond?
yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes, ma'am. Ordinance 0-20-4, 10.2. Ordinance amending Chapter 7, Schedule 7 through streets. Ordinance number 0-20-4, introduced and passed on first reading on 2/4/20 and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 2/7/20 is submitted and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies were available to the general public upon request. I'd like to open up discussion for this ordinance.
I'll read title of ordinance. An ordinance of the Township of Howell amending Chapter 7, Schedule 7 through streets of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell.
Does anybody want to come up to discuss? Then I will close this portion. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that ordinance number 020-4 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the February 21st, 2020 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
May I second?
I'll second.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Is there any unfinished business or any information?
Tommy?
Tom?
I just wanted to share just my reasoning in support of the Second Amendment resolution. about 5 years ago, I was my third year of law school, and I'm a kid from Howell. I'm not really used to, I didn't even know it was happening. I was followed home by somebody, and I went to law school out in central Pennsylvania, and the gun laws out there are very relaxed, as everybody knows. Was followed home. Guy was asking me for gas money. Parked behind my car so I couldn't get out. I walked into my apartment, and I said, "Okay, I'll give you your money." I went in the apartment, and I told my roommate. I said, I knew he had a gun. I said, "Hey, man, this guy's in for gas money." And he was kind of acting weird. He kind of went in his pocket. It was really shady. And my roommate walked downstairs he called the police, had the police on the phone, and had his gun in his it was like a little container. And the guy took off faster than you can believe. He peeled out of there so fast. Just the appearance of a gun case. And I never wanted to be helpless again. I felt completely helpless from the time I walked from my car when the guy was essentially cornered me until I got into the apartment. And I never wanted to feel that ever again. And I think it is our job here that we advocate for responsible gun laws, all right? At the same time that I advocate for not supporting the crackdown on our gun laws currently by the state, I also support extensive background checks and allowing our police department to more closely vet individuals before they access a firearm or permit. Just recently, we saw restrictions on ammunition. So it's beginning, and they're starting. The only way to get things done, I've seen it recently, I've seen it in Howell, is with people getting together and advocating for a cause. I'm not saying turn it to the Wild West. All I want to do is make sure that we have law-abiding citizens, or making sure we have the ability to have law-abiding citizens obtain guns and keep them and use them responsibly. So that's why I support it. I wasn't always like this, honestly, until it happened to me. It changed my life. And again, feeling helpless like that, it was a terrible feeling. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you for sharing that, Tommy.
Absolutely, Tom.
Mayor, may I?
Of course.
I just wanted to add before the meeting closes, in terms of the shade tree and the trees that I've been asking, for some care and making sure that we're safe. If you drive around Howell, you'll see trees that go over the road quite like this. So I'm not talking about cutting down trees that are healthy. I'm talking about making our roadways safe for our citizens. And until such time as there's a program in place, I'll continue to advocate for that safety. Secondly, I'd like everyone to extend their condolences to Sue Minnock, our assistant clerk, for the passing of her mother. And secondly, our employee, Victor Cook Jr., lost his father. As you all may know, Victor Cook is in our development with Mr. Herman. He's also OEM. So I'd like to extend our heartfelt sympathies and condolences to the Cook family. And I hope that everyone just take a moment and place these people in your prayers so that they can have some strength from their community. Thank you.
Are we good? The next meeting is March 3rd, 2020. Executive session at 6:30, regular session at 7:30. I would like a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes, thank you.
Good night.